Hi girls, how are you? Just a second video here just about alcohols. Just to explain one other thing that we need to know about alcohol. It's not particularly difficult, but I just wanted to show it to you. So the first thing I'm going to show you is a little model. Oh God, I wasn't expecting that to be that big. Sorry, move it back a bit. I gave you a fright, I'd say, did it? 3 carbons there like that. And then there's our oxygen and our hydrogen like that. So what I've got here is a model. Can you guess? Pause the video, see if you can guess what it is. 3 carbons, 1 alcohol group. It's propanol. Yeah, that's right. And I've drawn it here as well. Can you see that? So I've got 1, 2, 3 carbons, alcohol at the end. So that's propanol like that. Okay, so that's called propanol. We know that the end part of the word tells us what family or what homologous series it is, and the first part of the word tells us how many carbons. Isn't that right? So 3 carbons, alcohol will be propanol. All right, and that's fine, but it's not really the full story. Because if you think about this alcohol group here, we could possibly put that, imagine, I'll do it with my model. I could move this alcohol group, right? I'm going to pull this off here, and I'm going to put it here instead. Like this. Right? See the difference? So now my alcohol group is on the second carbon. Can you see the difference? 1, 2, 3. It's on the second one here, right? So that's a bit like if I did this and I put my OH on the second carbon instead of the first carbon or the last carbon, depending on what way you look at it. Can you see the difference? They are definitely not the same thing. Sure they're not? You can see that. Doesn't matter what way I turn this model, I'll never get it back the way it was. I'd have to physically break that off and put it on one of those other carbons to do that. Okay, so obviously can't do that. So the point is that this is a different molecule of some sort. And it probably wouldn't surprise you to know that this is called propan 2-ol, to show that the alcohol group is on the second carbon. All right, now, turns out that this is really important. It's not just as simple as sort of a technicality. For reasons we'll go into next year. What's important here is that this carbon, which has the alcohol attached, only has 1 hydrogen. Can you see that? I've put a big blue circle around that hydrogen. If you look at this one here, this carbon, which has the functional group, has 2 hydrogens. Can you see that? Whereas now, the carbon that's connected to the functional group only has 1. And this is really important because it turns out that this is the reactive part of the molecule. And later on, when we're talking about reactions of alcohols, it'll be really important whether the carbon has 2 hydrogens attached to it or only 1. Okay? And turns out there's a whole name for these sort of subset of alcohols, if you like. Okay? This is called a primary alcohol, because the carbon attached to the functional group has 2 hydrogens connected to it. And this is called a, surprise, surprise, secondary alcohol, because the carbon attached to the functional group only has 1 hydrogen attached to it, and it's less reactive than the primary ones. Does that kind of make sense? So there's 2 different types of alcohol. Well, there's 3 actually, which we're going to get into in a minute. But for now, we've looked at 2. There's primary and there's secondary. A primary alcohol has 2 hydrogens attached to the carbon, which is connected to the functional group. The secondary alcohol has 1 hydrogen attached to the carbon, which is the functional group. And we could possibly remove that hydrogen completely and replace it with a methyl group like this, see? So this is no longer propanol. This is, it now has 4 carbons, doesn't it? So you can see what this one's going to be called. It's going to be called, it's got a methyl group on the second carbon as well as the OH group on the second carbon. So we're going to call it 2-methyl propan 2-ol. Does that make sense? Because it's propan, because the longest chain is 3, 2-ol, because it's on the second carbon. And on the second carbon, there's a methyl group like that. And this has no hydrogens attached to the carbon connected to the functional group. See that? This carbon here has the functional group, carbon, 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 right? So it's very, very unreactive. And it's called a tertiary alcohol. Okay, so the family of alcohols, the homologous series of alcohols, is split into 3. There are primary alcohols, secondary alcohols, and tertiary alcohols. For now, you just need to be able to name them and draw them and recognize them. Next year, we'll talk about how they react, but that's probably for another day. Okay, so just be aware of this vocabulary really today and be able to recognize when an alcohol is a primary alcohol or a secondary or a tertiary. That's pretty much it. Okay, hope that helps. Bye-bye.